Hello and welcome back to another news video for Final Fantasy XIV with me, Meoni. This then, a video talking about the 16th of February, which is today, the actual update that went live this morning for Final Fantasy XIV. This update then is a hotfix, but is actually a small patch that you have to download on your client. PlayStation users shouldn't really see this. It should just download in the background with a new way that works. But yes, you might be wondering what exactly was in this hotfix. Well, essentially this hotfix has done all of the things that many of us wanted to address inside the Boston Southern Front, and of course Castrum, lacus, Litore. The problem that actually spurned on this actual hotfix was the bottleneck that is Castrum, lacus, Litore. Basically, people were finding it difficult to get groups, so they said they would one day hotfix it soon to actually incentivize, or better incentivize, the visitation of Castrum, lacus, Litore. So it says here, the following adjustments have been made to the Save the Queen Blades of Gunhilda. The drop rate for the loathsome memories of the dying has been increased for critical engagements in the Boston Southern Front. The loathsome stage then, if you're unfamiliar, is actually the stage where you would ordinarily do one of the Crystal Tower Alliance raids, such as Circus Tower being the fastest. So instead of actually having to do that, the drop rate for those has been increased. We'll have to go and do some testing to see what that's like in just a moment, but for the same point, they say they've increased it. Hopefully it's close to 100%, otherwise obviously it's still better to do Crystal Tower. They say the drop rates for haunting memories of the dying and vexatious memories of the dying have been increased for fates in applicable areas. This then is the one-off quest line for the Rabanastre raids and of course the Weeping City and Marquee raids. So a lot of people do 18 runs of Void Ark and then they do 18 runs of the Royal City of Rabanastre. It was just the fastest way of doing that because the fates in Girabania, or the fates in the Far East, were actually a lot slower. The drop rate was absolutely abysmal in those areas, and as a result of that, a lot of people relied on doing the actual Alliance raids. So it says they've increased it. Again, I'm not able to test that though, personally, because that is a one-time quest, that stage. Next up, they say the number of loathsome memories of the dying. Okay, so once again, loathsome, that's the Crystal Tower stage, obtained upon completion of the critical engagement, the Battle of Castrum, lacus, Litore in Boston Southern Front has been increased from 1 to 5. So upon the completion of the Castrum, you now get 5 loathsome memories. Bear in mind, one relic weapon is 15 of those. So what they're saying is you can do 15 runs of Circus Tower, or you can do 5 runs of three runs. Just my maths is terrible this morning. 3 runs of lacus, Litore. Lacus, Litore then has now become the fastest way, in theory, if your group's decent enough and you can clear it, to actually do this stage of a relic. So that might be enough of an incentive for some people to go in there, but is it a guaranteed clear? No. Is the timer still a thing? By the looks of these notes, yes. So it's still going to be a guaranteed way of getting it through Circus Tower, but this is quite good actually, having 5 as a reward. Next up, they say the maximum number of Boston coins that can be obtained from personal spoils in lacus, Litore in the Southern Front has been increased from 26 to 100, so you get 100 upon completion. Completion of lacus, Litore in the Southern Front will now reward metal and Allegan Tomestones of Revelation or experience points. Of course, if you're obviously under level 80, then you'll get experience points. It says characters whose levels are 80 outside of the instance will receive these tomestones, whilst people below that will get experience points. That's not really much of an incentive on its own. Honestly, without the loathsome memories, it's kind of flat. The coins, whoop-de-doo, you get quite a lot of them anyway, but some people might like that. Then they say the following issues have been addressed. It says, in the firmament, upon accepting or completing the quest Smiles Cross the Sky, the NPC Mallory would not appear and the concert would not be performed. Certain graphics did not appear correctly during the quest, the Pinnacle of Possibility. The Bosgian Phantom Battle in Delibram Regine and Delibram Regine Savage, the display of certain mechanics. Basically, there are certain mechanics. They include Dahu here, which is the alligator guy. Certain attacks were not displayed. Whether or not that means the bit where he swipes the left and you see a cone, and then he doesn't have a cone for the right or whatever. I don't know if that's what they're talking about here, but apparently we have better visibility of those mechanics now, which is going to be interesting. They do say, in the Temple of the Fist, the status ailment resistances of certain enemies were incorrect. That's a thing. The additional effect listed for the blue magic spell, the Dragon's Voice, were incorrect. Under certain conditions, the blue magic spell, Stotrum, could be used, even if it was not set as an active action. That's interesting. Critical hits and direct hits did not occur with damage over time dealt by the following blue magic spells. So basically, blue magic stuff was a little bit ropey. That's to be expected with a patch that adds so much to that, but you can hope that this has addressed a lot of those issues. You can read those in finer detail in a link in the description. I think the best thing to do now would be to go and test something, because they originally said they didn't want to force people to go out in the world to get 100% drop rate. My biggest fear yesterday was, does that mean that the Fates in Heavensward areas no longer supply a 100% drop rate chance on those the Forgotten Memory stage, the first memory collection stage with the blue, yellow and red? So let's go test that out, shall we? Alright then, here we are in Final Fantasy XIV. Let's do some of these. As you'll notice, in terms of these memories, I've been farming them in wholesale. By that I mean I've been trying to get lots of them so I can do all of the relics at once. So we've got 181 of the Sorrowful here, which are the blue ones, which you can obtain, of course, from the Dravanian Fallens, you know, all around here. Let's go do a Fate that's right next to us. We'll bash this one out as quick as possible, and we'll see if this is 100%, and then I'll try a couple more afterwards, and I'll give you my impressions. So, okay, we got one dropping there. So it looks then, if I was to go and do a couple more Fates, that this is still a very good way of doing it. Right, so after a little bit more testing, so I did another, I don't know, about half an hour of testing that, basically some other Fates. Basically, they were all 100% drop rate, so nothing has changed in that regard. That was the biggest fear, since originally Yoshi P said they wanted to address those Fates in particular. Presumably, then he actually meant the Rabanastan Fates, you know, the Far Eastern Fates and Doman Fates, but it was still worth checking regardless, so I can confirm that that first stage with the red, yellow and blue memories are still 100% outside and still not 100% inside, so it probably still is best to go and farm those out in the open world. Right then, I think the other thing to just check then is what it looks like inside the typical Bosgian Southern Front instance. Right then, here we are in Gangos, ready to queue up. Let's go do a Bosgian Southern Front. This is just the first Bosgian Southern Front of the day. Who knows what the population is going to be like. A lot of people are probably at work or whatever. It's 11 AM my time right now, like 11:13 in the morning. Let's see how many people are in this just sample, basically. We're not going to be able to do any proper testing of this, but I'm sure you will see an increase of people. So already there's people in the camp, that's new. On the adventurer list then, instantly we have 71 people. There we go. So single-handedly then, the idea that they could do three Castrum Lacus Litore runs, as opposed to 15 runs, by the way, of Crystal Tower for the Loathsome stage, has already got people tasting the rainbow, so to speak. So this should actually bring people back into the content. Whether you'll clear it or not is another question entirely. Now, of course, you're still going to have to wait for Lacus Litore to be up. As you'll see in this instance, it's already underway. There's actually people in there, so we've actually missed this opportunity, so we would have to re-queue to another instant. Okay, let's try once again. Let's go into Bosgian Southern Front. There we go, another queue. I've given it a few minutes just to see, and well, it'll be interesting to see if we get the same instance or not. There's not really any way I could really tell if it was the same instance. Unless... Right, okay, so whatever instance this is, there's no lacus Litore happening, but there is other critical engagements happening. Interesting. So, how many people are in this instance? Okay, so this is a new instance then. So it is creating new instances, it is populating them very slowly, but obviously this is still 11 in the morning. So what we have seen is that early morning, people are doing lacus Litore, and this is a new instance. You see lots of 15s here. There's a reason there's lots of 15s here, and it is not to smell the flowers, you know? I would love to test, actually, the Rabanasta stuff. Here we go, lots of new people queuing in. The Rabanasta Fate Drop in the Doma and, you know, the Far East and the Girabanian stuff. It's unfortunate that I've already done that stage, and it's one time only. Well, I say it's very fortunate that it is one time only, thankfully. But unfortunately, we're not able to test that. The only thing we can really test is player activity. And it does look like this is going to be... See, look, we're already filling up another 6 people. Lots of high levels. This should mean that you have a much better chance of clearing the content. I really, really hope that you can clear the content. That's the main thing that's going to be a problem if this, you know, carries on. And I still think it's going to be a problem after this content becomes less frequented, right? You're still going to end up with not being able to do lacus Litore for the completion of a storyline to even get to the point where you can do repeatable quests for future relics. And I know a lot of people will be like, Meoni, I only want 1 relic. Well, that's fine, but there are plenty of people out there, including myself, that would actually like to go for multiple or even all of them. And we would like that to be doable far into the future. So things like Delibram Regine as an instance are already going to struggle as it is in the future, but Castrum lacus Litore is certainly something that will struggle, and we will start to see numbers for that drop closer we get to the expansion and onwards. So if you're going to do resistance weapons, I still say the time is definitely now. Hopefully we see some other adjustments and maybe nerfs to stages in the future. That would be nice, similar to how they did for Eureka. But we'll have to wait and see. But if there is any updates, you can be sure that I will give them to you. But yeah, I'm just happy that the stages, for the most part, have stayed the same, and lacus Litore does actually reward better things. So you should see a lot more people in there. Hopefully not too many people, otherwise you won't get a queue for the exact opposite reason. I'm sure that will be on the forums next. I can't get a group for lacus Litore post-patch because it's impossible to get chosen out of the 90 people signing up. Oof, that'll be... That's definitely a different kind of problem entirely, isn't it? Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. Enjoy the rest of your day. Let me know what you would do to the Boston Southern Front, within reason, to actually improve it, or any of the relic stages, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye. Right, let's see if we can get onto a Castrum lacus Litore run, shall we? Who knows at this point? Who knows?